Welcome to Sports Econ 101, the show where we present sports topics from a business perspective. I'm your host, Edward Brown, along with my co-host, well-known radio sports personality Bruce McGowan, who's not here yet, and Vern Glenn of CBS affiliate KPIX TV in San Francisco.
That's right, America. We have earthquakes, and we do like them.
Yeah, exactly. And today's show is going to be very, very special because we have Bob Sargent, who's the director of the 49ers Broadcast Partnership. And we'll get into...
Wait. Bob Sargent?
The Bob Sargent, the one and only Bob Sargent.
Well, you know what that means. I got to be good.
That's right. Because
KPIX is in bed with the 49ers. We got to be good in the preseason.
Exactly. That's right, exactly.
I mean, do I have to call him Mr. Sargent?
I don't know, Bob. He does not. Okay. All right, good. And each commercial break, we're going to be asking a sports trivia question where we're going to be giving away 3 vacations to the first 3 emails with the correct answer. And the vacations are not sponsored by the radio station, but by Lighthouse Resort and Marina. And the vacations are free. They're only a request a $75 cleaning fee to cover housekeeping expenses. And you're listening to Sports Econ 101 on iHeartRadio, TuneIn Radio, Sports Byline USA, CRN, and many other terrestrial stations.
Well, how long is that list?
It's very long.
Popular show.
And continually expanding. And today's trivia theme is, they call him the Streak. And you'll understand when we get into the questions. And hopefully,
look at that.
And if we have time, hopefully we're going to get into other topics like the NFL wanting Super Bowl halftime acts to pay rather than doing it for free or actually getting paid. So we'll talk about that.
$9 billion business is not enough? They need more?
They need more.
Okay.
That's right. And the Cowboys apparently are worth $3.2 billion. And I don't understand this. The Redskins are in 3rd place at $2.48 billion. Maybe Bob will have a little bit more information on that one.
That buys a lot of burgers.
Okay, and when we come back also, obviously we'll talk to Bob, but then I want you to talk about some kind of racing thing you were doing.
Oh.
All right, because I saw that.
Well, the Indy cars were here. That's right.
And who were you doing it with?
I was with the great Mario Andretti.
Mario Andretti, okay. You are listening to Sports Econ 101, and we are sponsored by Pacific Private Money, providing mortgage investments that are currently yielding 8% secured by real estate. Don't touch that dial. Sports Econ 101 will be right back. All right, so that was our little teaser.
That's the show open.
That's
all right.
the opening. All right. I'm going to just save this file, and then we'll get right into it. You're always so animated. It's funny because I think that looks like Mario Andretti. He's a little older now than I was used to, but
well, we took a selfie together, and man, I was like, well, who's that guy with Mario Andretti?
Okay, let's see here. This is going to be, and I'm sure you're going to want to ask Bob a lot of interesting questions.
I have been in, around, through, and all over the catacombs of Levi Stadium.
Oh,
I have.
You know, I'm thinking I own a building that's literally I'd say 1 mile away, and I'm thinking, how can I use that for like extra parking?
Absolutely.
You know, like get a shuttle or something,
Well,
or
people will
during the
take
Super
it.
Bowl. Yeah,
That's for sure.
All right, let's do this really quickly here, and all set. Okay, and let's get into the next segment here. All right. Well, do you want to? How long do you want to take with the Mario Andretti thing? Because
As long as you want.
Okay. Okay. I mean,
You're driving.
I know. We got Bob here.
Yeah.
But I did want to get into that. So can we save that to later? We'll talk
Yeah.
about Bob first.
Well,
okay.
the NFL drives the bus. So.
There you go. All right, here we go. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Vern Glenn of CBS affiliate KPIX TV in San Francisco. And on the phone, we have Bob Sargent, who's the director of the 49ers Broadcast Partnership. Holy smokes, that's a long title.
He's the one that said, he looked at the tapes of last year's Channel 5 broadcast and said, you see that little Vern guy? Let's get him off the field. Let's get him in the broadcast booth so Dennis can stand there and say, "You're right, Ted."
Yeah. Well, Bob, welcome to Sports Econ 101.
Thanks. It's great to join you guys.
All right. So, I just wanted to get right into this here. Tell us exactly, what do you do for the 49ers for being in charge of the broadcast partnership? What does that actually mean, that title?
So my role here has evolved several times over the 9 seasons that I've been with the club. In our new world order moving forward, now that the stadium has been built and the sponsorships are sold and all of that, it's basically dealing with all of our broadcast partners. So preseason television, as Vern mentioned, and our radio stations and our shoulder programming with Comcast and NBC, our talent for all of our radio and TV programming, Spanish radio, national radio, anything to do with broadcast on radio and TV outside of the regular season games, which of course, as everyone knows, or I think they do, that's all handled at the league level. But my job is to make sure that we've got rights agreements that meet all of our needs, and I would view that as kind of a 360-degree deal where it's not just having the games on, but there's so many intricacies to putting these deals together. And so my job is to have negotiated all of those deals, and now that those have been negotiated for the long haul, my job is to serve at those and maintain them and make sure that our broadcast partners get what they need out of this deal, and that the 49ers continue to get what we need out of it.
Bob, sounds like it's not exactly a 9-to-5 job, is it?
It is not. It is, it's such a cliche, but it really is a 24/7, 365, especially I would say over the last 2 or 3 years, simultaneously, we were preparing for Levi Stadium, we were closing down Candlestick, we're doing our normal job. I mean, it's been a labor of love in a lot of ways, but a lot of sacrifice by a lot of people to get our organization to where we are right now. So this is definitely not a lunch pail, Fred Flintstone at 5 o'clock, end of the day kind of thing. So, and so most of the people who are here, and certainly the people who have lasted as long as I have, I think it's impossible to do this without kind of personal and professional passion for what we do and the dedication to kind of get this done. And I think, without trying to overstate it, but I'm just kind of being honest, being a local, being a native of San Francisco myself, this has been an incredible opportunity to have been a part of this. And in all of our own small ways, it's kind of like our legacy to the market and to future generations of 49er faithful. And since that's my childhood team, it's very meaningful and very personal to me.
Hey, Bob, just as a humble employee of CBS 5 here in the Bay Area, I'm just wondering how much perspiration was forming on the brow of our general manager, Bruno Cohen, as he signed the agreement?
Well, that's a really fair question. The answer is by that point, none.
A few extra gray hairs ahead of time.
2 or 3 years. And of course, Bruno inherited some of those conversations. It was so instrumental. This never would have happened without his, him coming back to the Bay Area. And so, like any other deal, by the time you get to a point of signature, you've checked all those boxes of how do they justify it? How do we justify it? Under what terms would this work? Under what terms would it not work? And that's why those deals take so long, because it's cumbersome to deal with all of the issues, and that's also the fun part of it. So I would, like any other deal that you make, I think the right deal is one in which you say, okay, well, I feel very good about this, but I've got a little bit of a tick in my stomach. Yeah. I think that means you've done a right and fair deal for both sides. And I would be surprised if he said otherwise, and I know that's certainly how I feel.
I know the answer to this, but for the audience listening and watching, they may not know. You got 2 terrific guys that are doing the play-by-play for the preseason, and Ted Robinson and Tim Ryan, and then that will translate into the radio booth once the regular season begins. I'm just curious as to how you form or what goes into the process of selecting your play-by-play and color analysts, because it's not like you just wake up and just write the names on a cocktail napkin and it's green light.
That really is a great question, and I think the fair answer to that is I think it evolves, and you have an idea and a vision and a dream of kind of what you want it to be, what you hope it would be, and like many things in life, it's not always a straight line, and you've got to take circuitous routes to get there. I would tell you very honestly and very humbly that this has been my dream team for quite some time, and the fact that it all came together and to coincide with the opening of Levi Stadium is kind of part of what I referenced is a good example of what I referenced a couple minutes ago about leaving a legacy. I mean, I grew up, listening to Lon Simmons, who I still consider the best ever. And as a kid who grew up not far from Candlestick Park and listened to broadcast and all that, and, now, so many decades later to have been a part of kind of envisioning what you want it to be. And I think that's usually where you start, like making a road trip, right? Where am I going? And then you kind of, how am I going to get there? And you may not ultimately get to your dream scenario, but in my case, it did come together. So it's not without a lot of pre-planning. It's not without a lot of dialogue, a lot of tenacity. And as Tim Ryan said the day I signed him to his agreement, he's like, "Man, you sure don't know how to give up, do you?" And I take that as a great compliment because that's how things like this get done. But I'm just elated with where we are with that. So Ted and Tim will do preseason TV. And then, as you said, when the regular season begins, they'll do radio, and it will be an interesting transition for them to work together for the long haul. And, Tim's been doing some sideline stuff for Westwood One for many years in the NFL. And, of course, I think most people know him as the Fox commentator for the last at least dozen years or so. And so it'll take some time for him to get used to the cadence of radio, to things, for example, like, stopping the commentary when the huddle breaks so that the play-by-play guy has a chance to set up the next play and where the, what personnel is on the field and create that excitement for the radio listener. So I'm very excited about what this is now, but I'm even more excited about what it's going to be, let's say a month from now or a month and a half from now when they really kind of kick in their chemistry together. And like a good double play combination, it takes some time, even if each of the parties have great talent, as is the case with my two guys.
And for those that are listening that want to be kind of clued in, Tim Ryan, of course, played the Game as an interior defensive lineman, a former teammate of Jim Harbaugh with the Chicago Bears. So, and I have seen this guy from production meetings to whatever. I mean, this guy's ready to jump out of the booth and go in and and do a head slap to get to the quarterback right now. And with Ted Robinson, we all know how versatile he is. I mean, you just throw something in front of him and then it's away you go. So to follow up Joe Starkey, who was the voice of the 49ers for years, you want to be the guy following the guy, and Ted Robinson was certainly a great selection.
And Bill, sorry, I'm looking at
that would be Mr. Sargent.
Yeah, no, I'm looking at something else here. I'm sorry, Bob.
Quit multitasking from the booth.
I got to do the production here and everything. So, Bob, stay with us because when we come back, I want to ask you about what it was like to get the Super Bowl for coming up for 2016. All right. Sure. We're cutting to our first commercial break. Again, the theme is they call him the Streak.
Mm-hmm.
All right, ready? Who was the first player in history to win 16 consecutive Gold Gloves? And the hint is it was not Bill Buckner. Okay. No offense to Bill
Thanks
Buckner.
for that.
That's
what
a hint, right?
16 consecutive Gold Gloves?
16 consecutive Gold Gloves. Who was the first player in history to win 16 consecutive Gold Gloves?
All right.
The first three emails with the correct answer are going to win that free 3-day, 2-night stay at the Lighthouse Resort. Email Edward at sportsecon101.com. The answer to this question: who was the first player in history to win 16 consecutive Gold Gloves? By the way, they call them the Streak. All the questions are about baseball.
And this would be Gold Gloves, not golden gloves.
Yeah.
of boxing.
No, we're talking Gold Gloves, baseball.
Okay.
All right, don't touch that dial. Sports Econ 101 will be right back with Bob Sargent. All right. Okay. Let's see here. Okay, see, that goes pretty
Segment
fast.
1 in.
Yeah. That's right. Okay.
Yeah, Bob, we have fun with these. We do these every Tuesday from like 3 to 4, and we just kind of kick it around.
Are you guys in your 415 number here? So you guys are obviously located in the city, I take it on.
No, we're up here in San Rafael, up in Marin.
Oh, you are.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, great.
Yeah, sometimes like we had Craig Morton in the studio because he lives in Mill Valley.
I'll be darned.
So that was a fun one. Yeah, some of the best guys who do play-by-play, and same thing with baseball, is when they're quiet, so that you can hear the fans and get into that excitement.
Yeah. The great ones know when to let the great ones know exactly when to let the broadcast and the crowd noise and all that kind of take over. It's why we go through great expense with parabolic microphones on the field like, you're there. And if someone is talking incessantly without any of that downtime, it's hard to kind of create that ambiance around it. So it's very important.
Okay. One of my favorite calls of all time was Pat Summerall, and I remember it like yesterday. It was Cowboys Giants, and he says, Sims, back to pass, looking, will be sacked. Jim Jeffcoat. That was it. That was it. You knew what happened.
It's harder though, as you know, probably, Vern, right? On radio though.
Oh my God, yeah.
You really can let silence, from the broadcast booth hit because people can see for themselves. When you're on radio, sometimes it's that silence that helps create that unbelievable.
Well, I tell you what, Bob, let's save that for we're going to get right into it, and then because I want you to get into that, I want people to understand what goes on radio here. All right, let's get this. Okay. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. Again, I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Vern Glenn.
Yes.
Eventually, Bruce McGowan will show up. He's been playing in the water today.
I'm looking at his empty chair. It's not.
All right, when we got to the first commercial break, we asked this trivia question. Who was the first player in history to win 16 consecutive gold gloves?
Gosh,
I'm
going to guess Ozzie Smith of the Cardinals.
I would think that would be a good guess, but it's not.
Oh, is it Omar Vizquel?
No.
Wow.
Bob, do you have any idea?
Well, actually, it's funny. I mean, Ozzie Smith would have been who I would have guessed. I don't know. I'm not sure who it is. I would think it would be a shortstop, but I know it should be my idol, Greg Nettles. He should have won way more than he won.
You know what? Right position, right league, wrong team. Brooks Robinson.
Brooks Robinson.
Because I had a feeling
wow.
it was Brooks, and I still to this day think Nettles was better.
Really? Okay. All right. Fair enough.
My first baseball glove was a Brooks Robinson.
I think mine too.
Baseball glove.
You know what? I think mine too.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have on the phone Bob Sargent, who is the director of the 49ers Broadcast Partnership. And Bob, I want to ask you specifically about the Super Bowl that is coming in 2016, I believe.
That's right.
So what was it like working on that? That must have kept you a few extra hours.
Well, the truth is, on a personal level, my role in my broadcast department would have nothing to do with that. That was certainly done at the league level. Certainly Jed and Prague and all of those guys were a part of that. Our old dear friend Pat Gallagher and his crew kind of bid for that. So that's really done at the league level. And certainly when Jed was envisioning the stadium and working with the NFL on loans and all that, I think it's a given that the NFL is desperate for a new stadium, has been desperate for a new stadium to be built in California, so they could do just that. It's the perfect venue for it, and my expectation is that it will be on the short list. Much like growing up, it seemed like it was New Orleans and then Miami and then Pasadena, and it would kind of rotate every 2 or 3 years. And I think that's what this will become. So my role specifically in that was nil, but obviously in helping to build and structure this stadium in and of itself, so that could happen, is something that I have been a part of and is very exciting. So we're thrilled about that, but really our focus here at 49-49 is to make sure we're playing in that game, and that's more important than anything.
Yep, 49 Centennial Boulevard.
Hey, as you probably know, Vern, our address is now changed. It's now 4949 Marie P. DeBartolo Way.
Ah, yes, of course. Yeah, keep it in the family. Keep it in the.
That's right.
Hey, here's a fun one, Bob. I'm curious. Is between Fox, CBS, NBC, whoever's doing a particular game, do each, I guess, production crew, do they come in? Do they do it differently, distinctively, or is it just all right? Here's the handbook, and here's how we're going to configure the booth or whatever. I'm just curious.
Well, again, that would certainly be much more, for Bob Lang and the PR department. My sense is, and knowing what I know about how that all works, is mostly it's the same in terms of structure. You come in on a Friday and you got to meet with the visiting team and then the home team. So certain mechanics of that are very, very structured. But like anything else in life, individual play-by-play guys or individual color announcers and the history they may or may not have with some of our coaches, that certainly varies from network to network, or even from crew to crew. So, as you know, are we going to get, if it's a Fox game, are we going to get, Buck and Aikman, or is it going to be or whatever it might be. Not coincidentally, that's one of the reasons why Tim Ryan is such a great choice for us, because not so much in the last few years, because we've been so successful on the field and therefore have generated more of the number one or number two announcing crew. I think for most of Tim's duties at Fox, he was probably the number three crew. And so for many, many years, he did several of our games each year. And when he walks into a room and the questions he asks, knowing Jim Harbaugh the way he does, having played with Jim, knowing the philosophy, having played on the defensive line, he would be much different than the next guy who would come in. So absolutely, there is some structure of it that's very similar, but mostly it's very individual to, who's doing the game and what's their history with us or not. That plays a big part in how those production meetings go about.
Yeah, I would be curious to know if does Jim Nance like saltless nuts? Does Joe Buck like crackers on the? Does he want the microphone on the left, or does he want it on the right? I'm dying to know stuff like that.
Yeah, that's really a good question. I mean, in terms of those kind of intricacies, that really would be more for those individual production crews. They would know. Our job kind of begins and ends with making sure that they're set, and the press box is filled with, good food and coffee and soda and whatever else that all of our media that covers the game wishes for. And then once they get in that booth, I'm sure you've seen it here, Vern, but at Levi Stadium, that booth is right at the Yahoo Sports Talk Lounge level, and it's on the 50-yard line, and it's just breathtaking how close that booth is. And, we took the same view even on not just TV, but like, for example, the visitors radio booth, where traditionally now in the last 10 or so years, as these new stadiums have been built, most of the visiting teams are really stuck in the high end zone as if they don't care about them. I mean,
right.
I already know that if the schedule comes out and we're playing in Washington, I'm going to hear Ted rant about how he's not going to be able to call the game. And it really does a disservice, I think, to the stadium and to the work that's been done in it, because those guys are just viewed as not important. I was influential in making sure that the visiting radio booth is in a good spot, so that at least you have a forum for those people to call a good game. And I think if you do that, then the food and all those little intricacies they kind of fall in line. But you can't treat those folks like they don't matter because they don't cover the home team. And I think that's something that I'm really proud of from a broadcast standpoint about Levi Stadium.
And which brings me to my follow-up. We've been through a couple of home games now, and what kind of feedback have you been getting, and what have you personally taken away from a couple of games now, a couple of dry runs here from a broadcasting standpoint?
Great question. I think we're getting tremendous feedback, and we are actively searching for feedback with questionnaires and whatnot. So obviously, first and foremost, we want to make sure that parking and the flow of traffic and the lots and getting in and out and the access to all that is first and foremost on getting all that right. So that's a big part of the feedback that we've been receiving. What's the game day experience now that 49er Studios and Rob Alberino have taken that part of it over? So there's so many things that are different, and we are accumulating information literally for every department, from our marketing folks, the stuff that's important to them, the stuff that's important to me as the broadcast. We're constantly getting and wanting that feedback. On a personal level, I spend most of my time in the press box on the press level, and to see the reaction of those folks and kind of what I just referenced a minute ago about how well thought out it's been, and have the comfort of those folks, and the feedback that we're getting has been extremely good. And so I'm very curious and wanting of information for that. And then just as kind of a fan, as much as a fan, employee, a native, someone who's invested so much here, it's the museum. I mean, it's just that museum is absolutely one of the most incredible things I've ever seen. And so having been involved in some of the planning for that, and kind of a counseling for that, because I'm a native on certain things, and knowing how hard those folks worked, and I knew it was going to be spectacular. I knew about some of the unique things they were going to put in there, and yet still to walk through there, it's just breathtaking. So, then that's all preseason, and now, the regular season will be upon us, and like anything else, the focus turns where it should, which is on the football field. And so I'm looking forward to hopefully continuing the renaissance that the 49ers have had over the last few years under Jim Harbaugh and Trent Baalke and Brock Barate and those crew of making sure that we win games, because at the end that's going to have a significant part of how much our fans enjoy this experience here.
Well, that is going to be a magic night, September 14th, the regular season home opener. And hey, as far as I'm concerned, on a personal level, hey, just keep my seat tidy, row A, seat number 10. And keep the pulled pork sandwiches going. That pulled pork,
a spot for Vern.
Oh my God! Oh, Edward, you don't know. The pulled pork is just. They got pulled pork. They got mac and cheese. That's just to die for. And then they've got cobbler, peach and berry cobbler. You cannot go hungry in the press box. Oh my God! Yeah.
I was just thinking, I hope those sodas you give the guys aren't too carbonated, because I make sure that I don't have any carbonation before going on radio, because, burping on radio, it doesn't work very well.
Well, they got plenty of bottled water, too, refrigerated, ready to go.
That's right.
Yep.
Your culinary options are limitless.
Oh, my God.
That's awesome.
Oh, my goodness.
I'll take some lobster. Okay, here's our second trivia question. We're going to cut to a commercial break here, and again, the theme is They Call Him the Street, and these are all baseball questions. Nolan Ryan played for 27 years, right? Whose record did he tie? So who else had that streak?
Of playing 27
consecutive years.
A pitcher or any other player in the league?
Any other player. All right?
All right.
So the first three, you've heard of this player.
Okay.
But he's not too recent.
Okay.
Okay, fair enough. All right, the first three emails with the correct answer win a free 3-day, 2-night stay at the Lighthouse Resort. By the way, that was your hint. Email edward@sportsecon101.com. The answer to this question: Nolan Ryan played for 27 years. Whose record did he tie? All right. Well, can you imagine playing 27 years?
Wow. Can you imagine almost 30 years?
Yeah.
At the highest level of baseball. That's amazing.
That just amazes me, Joe. All right, don't touch
That's
that.
a run.
Don't touch that dial, because Sports Econ 101 will be right back. All right, Bob, you having fun?
Yeah, not too bad.
Okay.
Hey, where are you exactly? Are you in the stadium, or are you across the way in the other
No,
facility?
we moved into the stadium itself. About our sales and marketing team moved into the stadium itself about 3 weeks or so ago, 2-3 weeks ago. So we are settled in here. So this is my new home in every which way.
Man, that auditorium where Jim Harbaugh comes and speaks to us, geez, that is cavernous. Wow.
So
really,
there isn't anything that kind of slips.
And very very user friendly, because it's only it might be 100 feet from there to the 49er locker room.
That's right.
So that's
right.
which is
pretty good.
Which is spacious in itself.
You know, and
you can fit my whole house in that locker room.
It's funny. I was talking to a shuttle company. They were saying that there were some issues going on with the parking facility, because there's like 6 parking lots.
I think. Well, how about it, Bob? I think over time this will all work itself out. People will kind of acclimate and leave as early as they feel like they need to leave in order to kind of circumvent the traffic. I mean,
certainly, and I mean, there's no illusion here that this isn't going to evolve over some time as people create new game day habits. And I think it's not just necessarily leaving early, although that's but it's to go on LeviStadium.com. Which parking lot should I park in? Where are my seats? We're going to direct you so that is as easy as possible. And so, as more people come to a few games, they're going to get the routines in, and so I'm expecting it to be. A learning curve. I think it's going to be fine in the beginning, but it's going to get significantly better. And I think that we're going to be incredibly focused on that to make sure that's what happens.
I don't think it's so much that. I think it's the route to actually get into the certain parking areas. Because I remember
that's just it. But we're telling people we want you to go a different way.
Right.
It's the person who says, okay, I'm in a green lot pass, but I'm going to take this exit. And if you take that exit, it's not the one we want you to. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, so you're going to have to go around. Yeah, exactly.
I don't want to say force people, but it is.
Right.
It's the most convenient way to make sure that you get right in there. And so if people are, take the time to actually go online and take the tutorials that we've got there, their game day experience to get in and out, like much of the feedback that we've gotten has been great. But the real test is coming when there's absolutely 70,000 people here, and we know that will be the case on September 14th.
Hey, can you helicopter in? Just curious.
Well, you can. I mean, you're such a big time.
Right.
No. I'm serious. I mean, if I'm Warren Buffett, and I don't want to, fight the traffic.
Just parachute in like that one guy did.
I just got. Well, there's so many buildings around. I think you could maybe you could helicopter
Yeah,
in.
if you need a parking lot, if you need an extra parking lot, let me know. There he is, Uncle Bruce.
Hey, Bruce McGowan has just walked in.
Fantastic.
What's up, man?
That's sweet, buddy.
So we got
All right.
Bob Sargent on the phone
Oh,
here.
have you guys just?
We've been through a couple of segments.
All right. Hey, Bob. Hey, Sarge. Hello, man.
Yeah.
Hey, bud.
Doing good. How about your team? Is it going to be any good this year?
Of course we are.
Matt, you think you're going to be in the Super Bowl?
Yeah, I mean, that's certainly the goal, I can tell you that. So sure, I don't see why we couldn't, and yet we also understand how difficult that is.
Yeah. It's kind of interesting. Sarge and I'm not sure, when did you get first hired by KNBR? Sarge, it was about the same time I did, wasn't it?
1991.
Okay, so you were a couple years after me. We got let go on the same day, though. We were there almost all the same time.
God, that was my second year at Cron.
Oh, geez. 1991. That was a fun year.
Wow.
I had a lot of adventures with single women in San Francisco in 1991.
So anything we want to cover with Bob before we let him go? For just spend a few minutes because I want to get into it.
I don't know if you guys want to talk about this, but I bet Bob, and I don't know if Bob would feel comfortable talking about it, but I think it'd be great if you have a couple of good stories about KNBR, because Bob, you and I were there during some I would say the golden era. And Vern was there for a short time, and he knows about it. Some really interesting people who worked there. Pete Franklin, Radich, obviously, Salvador was quite a character. Bob Agnew. Keep it light, tight, and
Let's go into Sarge's roots here.
Yeah.
Okay. So what I'll do is I'll announce that you've come into the studio and that you've got a question.
Okay.
How's that?
Sure.
I'm going to cover this trivia question first. But here we go. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Vern Glenn, and we have Bruce McGowan, who finally showed up.
Yeah, well, the waves were good.
The waves were too good.
Just so good at Ocean.
Brucey's all Grizzly Adams like that. Look at
I
that.
know.
That's okay. I got a face made for
Great.
you.
Sarge, you should see this gray beard here. Oh my God. Look at it.
Actually, it's Arctic Blonde.
Yeah.
That's how they call it now.
My wife, she demanded it, so happy wife, happy life.
That's
She's put up with me for 20 years.
I know about that.
See, most of the wives want them to shave, guys to shave it off, but she likes it though.
She would like it, and my daughter likes to pull on it.
You get it from all sides.
Yeah.
Okay, here's our second trivia question. Let's ask this first. Okay, Nolan Ryan played for 27 years. Whose record did he tie? You just came in.
27
years.
Bruce, this should be right in your wheelhouse.
Okay, this is going back.
What other big leaguer played 27 years?
You gotta go
Cy
back.
Young?
Actually, a little before him.
Wow.
Holy moly.
Christy Mathewson?
No,
he was
he was after.
He was after. God, I'm stumped.
Cap Anson.
Cap Anson, who was an avowed racist, by the way.
Yeah. He was the main guy.
Yeah. He was basically, because they had a guy named Fleetwood Walker who was a black player who played in Major League Baseball, and Anson refused to play against his team, and then he instituted this agreement among the owners to not allow African Americans to play for the next half a century.
Yeah,
basically.
That's it. Exactly.
Disgraceful. He should not be in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
He's a disgrace to the game.
Because if you go to the Hall of Fame, you'll see Fleetwood picture.
Fleetwood's over there, and so is Cap. Yeah, they had their little encounter.
Okay, so it turns out that you and Bob Sargent go back quite a ways.
Yeah, well, Bob
in fact, three of the four of us on the air right now have KNBR blood.
Actually,
coursing through our veins.
Hey, I was a co-host on the show once.
Were you?
There we go.
I'll make it 4 in a row. Well, Bob and I were there during a long period together. Bob was the top sales guy. I was just one of the many sports guys. But Bob, tell us a little story about Bob Agnew, because I know he's one of these guys who's not going to get a lot of publicity because he's behind the scenes, but he was pretty much running the show there, the program director, who was there for 16 years, my boss, a friend of yours. Tell us a little bit about Bob Agnew, because he was really a classic radio lifer.
He was. I feel like, and I'll include Isabel Lemon in this.
Oh, yeah.
Isabel Lemon, Bob Agnew, and myself. I was the sports sales manager there for about 12 or 13 of the 15 years that I was there. And unique thing about the three of us working together is, first and foremost, you know, we really did bleed KMBR, and we bled Giants baseball, and we bled, and it was very meaningful to us. And so the thing I always respected and admired about Bob and Isabel is that they were very sales friendly. And at the same time, part of the reason that they were is because I was so programmer friendly. I didn't go to them with stupid ideas. I didn't want to have live commercials, for example, in our broadcast. You know, I thought the purity of the broadcast was important. And it was rare for them to deal with someone in my chair who cared about what it actually sounded like. And from my perspective, normally, you know, when you walk into a program director's office and you want to do something as the sales manager, the answer is no before you even get the request out. So I think that we had certainly some battles. We certainly had some wars. Certainly had some major disagreements, as people will when they work together like that passionately for as number of years as we've had. But I considered him to be a very dear friend and a great colleague, and I would be surprised if he didn't feel the same way. And I think that the reality is, right or wrong, that that's rare in the radio world. And so when I think about Bob Agnew, that's pretty much what I think about. And it's interesting how life comes full circle. Just this year, you know, he's working for a station down in Southern California, and that station is now an affiliate on our 49er radio network. So as of 2014, Bob Agnew and I are kind of working together in a much different capacity, obviously, but I have great respect for the efforts and the work and the loyalty that we all share together, and that will always be the case when I think about Bob and that special time at KNBR under the really the great leadership of Tony Salvador. There were days that we probably wanted to strangle each other, but that's kind of the way it is with family, and we were a family for a long time.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that word.
We were together for a long time.
Bob, I'm glad you mentioned that word loyalty, because you don't hear that a lot in broadcasting. And Vernon spent a long time at Cron when it was going good. You and I get to be at KMBR when it was going good. A lot of the people out there probably don't know or care, but they don't also realize that broadcasting is such a volatile profession. When you do spend a lot of time at one place with a lot of people, it's almost like being in a sports franchise. You know, you feel invested with that product, with that. It becomes more than just a radio station.
Well, it's changed so much with cable and internet and all that.
Yeah,
it has, and I don't think there's any way to be fair to have that conversation without thinking about the company that we work for. I mean, Susquehanna was such a genuine company, and the way they treated their employees, it created that environment of loyalty. So certainly there were people like myself who have great passion and love for KNBR and the signal and the history and what it means to the marketplace and the signal strength and all of that. But a lot of that was directly tied to the people that we worked for. I mean, I can tell you that, you know, Dave Kennedy and Pete Brubaker and Louis Appel and those guys literally never came to San Francisco on a market trip without making sure they stopped into my office to make sure they understood how grateful they were about the revenue that we had generated for Giants baseball. It was because KNBR was the kingpin of all the stations they own around the country, and Giants baseball was the single revenue stream within that. And so they just always made me feel so appreciated and recognized that it was very motivating. So yes, it was the station and it was the signal and it was the people, but I think a big part of that was the culture that was created with Susquehanna, and they are fantastic. We're fantastic broadcasters to work for.
See that, and that's how employers should be. Very similar. Like, I'm a landlord because I own some property.
Well, you're that way with Vern and me.
Yeah,
The reality is, that I think we grew up in a great time for all that. I think the reality is that somewhere along the line, and really somewhere along the line was deregulation, without boring people to death. But in the mid 1990s, when deregulation changed and there was no longer a cap of how many stations you could own, it was only a matter of time before most all of those smaller companies got bottled up for much larger companies, and that's exactly what's happened. And it happens in so many different industries that it's not it's predictable. It's not good or bad necessarily, but it's reality. And so it was a different time for sure, but one that I I think back of with great fondness, and certainly even in putting together our new rights deal, I mean, they're going to be our partner for 10 more years, and there's no way that happens without, a deep amount of respect and love and loyalty I still have for KNBR and what that brand means to this marketplace. I want the 49ers on that brand. I think it's a marriage made in heaven, and it was a big part of the sales pitch that I made when I was working at KNBR, and we were trying to get the rights to the 49er games. And so to be on the other side of that same deal is kind of interesting how life works out. But it's where the 49ers belong. It's what KNBR means, and I feel very proud of that long-term association that now has another 10 years to go.
So I'll tell you a little reality. I don't know if you guys can relate to this, but it seemed like when I was at KNBR, no matter what I did, I still had to always go through Isabel Lemon to get into the KNBR closet to get some swag.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Well, Bob, thank you so much for joining us. We've had Bob Sargent, director of the 49ers Broadcast Partnership, on the line with us, and we'll have you on again, okay?
You guys have a great day.
Great, thank you so much.
Bob's a really good guy. It's fun
Yeah.
working with Bob, and Vern knows this because you worked at KNBR for a while and you got to know Bob. Bob was one of those guys who was always so upbeat and always so energetic and always so positive.
Open door policy, just walk in.
Yeah. And I'm not saying there are not a lot of people like that, but that was, as he pointed out, he worked in an environment that was unique. Yeah, it was volatile and there was a lot of little rivalries going on, but I'd say generally speaking, that was a very unique, probably kind of similar back in the day when you were at Cron, when things were really hopping with the NBC affiliate. Again, a lot of listeners are going, what are they talking about? Well, a lot of stations, they just don't have that kind of stability anymore. And we were lucky, I think. I feel very, very fortunate to have spent that much time at KNBR, as I know you do, Vern, about your time at Cron.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate the treating of your employees well.
Yeah,
and I do
so
the same
important.
thing with tenants in buildings that I
Yeah,
know. It's like,
yeah.
thank you very much because you're paying my mortgage.
Yeah,
It's not the other way around.
Yeah.
So I want to shift over here because our friend Vern here was Mr. Race Car Driver recently.
Really? Up at Sears Point?
I want to hear this experience.
Yeah, at Sonoma Raceway, the Indy cars
Yeah.
were recently here.
Kind of reprise of the old Mr. Involvement.
Well,
Yeah,
they were given these ride-alongs with these two-seat Indy cars,
Oh, yeah.
and usually they'll bring in a driver to kind of drive it, but they brought in Mario Andretti.
Whoa! So you got to ride with Mario?
I got to
Andretti?
ride with Mario Andretti
How
for
cool
a
is
lap.
that?
That was really cool.
Oh my God!
with
Still a
the-
pretty good driver?
Well, I mean, to the untrained eye,
He's here, isn't he?
Yeah.
I'll tell you, it was quick.
Yeah.
And he said we got it to about 165 miles.
Whoa! How old is Mario Andretti now?
Got 74.
And he,
74. The guy,
nice guy.
Oh, terrific guy. Height-wise, we could post up on each other.
Yeah, I remember he won. I remember when I was a
I
kid.
saw that.
Yeah,
I remember when I was a kid, he won the 1969 Indy 500. The only time he won it, and it was such an exciting race.
Yes, I remember
And he
that.
was so exuberant. I mean, obviously he would be afterwards, but he just felt so good for the guy. He was just. He was a good guy that really helped to elevate racing during that time of the 60s.
Well, that's at the time when we were all clicking Hot Wheels cars.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
he just kind of just ushered it right into
Oh
the
yeah.
map for all of us.
No, he did more for auto racing, I think, than any other
Correct.
individual.
Yeah, we did a little interview kind of on the TV deal, and I asked him, I said, hey, if I said you were the godfather of, the open wheel racing, would I be accurate? And he's like, yeah, well, I'll take that.
Yeah.
Well, between his sons, his nephew, and
What a family!
all
It's
driving.
royalty.
Yeah.
It really is royalty.
And it's still today the only driver to have won the Indy 500, the Daytona 500,
Wow.
and the Formula One championship.
Wow, I did not
Is that
know
right?
that.
Yeah.
And that should have been one of my
Yeah.
trivia questions.
Yeah.
But I remember looking at the interview, and I noticed you were kind of looking down on him a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
Well, the thing about Mario Andretti,
Yeah,
wasn't
we doesn't have him very often, man.
wasn't he the
Yeah.
first? I mean, he didn't have a father that was an auto racer. He was the first one to kind of start this dynasty, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was.
Yeah,
He was.
So he
was.
truly is the godfather.
Yeah,
Well,
kind
before
of,
him, it was horse and buggy.
Yeah,
kind of
that's
a
right.
Marlon Brando type guy,
Yeah. Marlon
because his
Brando.
offspring's so
Wow.
successful.
God.
Okay, well, guys, when we come back, we only have just another couple of
Bob
minutes
Bob
here.
Agnew would have,
My, how time flies.
Bob Agnew would have said, "We're not going anywhere. We're sitting right
Yeah,
here."
right here. We've got another 4 hours to go.
Time spent listening. Time TSL.
Yeah,
Time spent
gotta
listening.
get those earlobes.
Yeah.
Those ears.
Yeah.
In television, they say you got to get the eyeballs. On radio, it's always we're fighting for ears.
We didn't get a chance. To
I remember the day he walked in with a Maxim magazine right when he came in. He goes, "This is your new Bible." You know,
Maxim?
Oh yeah, because it was nothing but men that was listening.
Oh,
and
right.
The
young male demographic.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
Yeah.
You guys are funny. All right, guys, here we go. Unfortunately, we didn't get a chance to talk about the Super Bowl halftime acts. We'll have to cover that next time.
For another time.
Another
Okay. show.
Another show.
Third, final trivia question. Again, the theme is they call him the Streak. All right? Which speedster set a record for stealing 50 consecutive bases without being caught?
Oh.
Right? The first three emails with the correct It's not Camp Anson, okay?
Thank you.
The first three emails with the correct answer win a free 3-day, 2-night stay at the Lighthouse Resort. Email Edward at sportsecon101.com the answer to this question. Which speedster set a record for stealing 50 consecutive bases without being caught? And don't touch that dial because Sports Econ 101 will be right back with some closing comments.
All right, it can't be Ricky because that's too obvious.
It's got to be maybe Maury Wills.
That was my first thought was Maury Wills.
The three greatest base hitters I always thought were Wills, Brock, and Ricky.
Yeah.
So it's got to be one of those.
It's one of those three.
Ricky's.
I'll say Brock. I'll go with Brock. God, Brock, I remember
I'm going to go Maury Wills.
Every time I'd see Lou Brock play, base hit, first pitch, base hit, second pitch, steal second, third pitch, ground out, he'd go to third, fifth pitch, he scores on a sacrifice.
He always killed.
He just killed the Giants.
He killed the Giants, I remember.
I saw Ricky a couple days ago.
Yeah, he's doing real well too.
He's got a little gray scraggly thing going.
He's about 57 now. 56.
He's a few years older. I'm 54.
He was born in 59. Christmas Day, 59. Yeah.
He came in to work with Nate Fryman.
Nate Fryman. Wow.
Yeah, he taught him to.
Worked with Nate Fryman.
Yeah, he changed his stance. He had him, and he went from up here. He had him like holding his hands down and then swinging.
Nate Fryman might be one of those guys that really helps the A's this year late in the year because he's good off the bench. He's got some good bench.
He's like
players.
6'7", 6'8".
Yeah, big guy.
Yeah, he's really huge.
All right.
And his wife is a LPGA golfer.
Nate Fryman's wife.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
There you go. Okay, here we go. Welcome back, actually, to Sports Econ 101.
Where we go?
We didn't go.
Where we go?
We've been here all the time.
We were suspended on the air.
Bob Agnew used to just drill us into Vernon's head in my head. We haven't gone anywhere.
Yeah.
Those of you watching, you've seen this the whole time.
That's right.
That's right, they did.
So again, how do you say it again? You say, not welcome back. You say,
nice to have you with us.
Nice to have you with us.
Yeah, nice to have you with us.
Or
Thanks for joining us.
You do the call letters, and then you kind of reset the time, and then boom.
Okay. Well, the thing is, we can't do call letters because we're on too many stations. All right.
But you can say, hey, Sports Econ 101 continues on.
That's what it is. Sports Econ 101 continues on. Remind me, and I'll change this on the
Let us continue.
All right. Edward Brown, your host. Vern Glenn and Bruce McGowan, co-host. When we had the third final commercial break, we asked this trivia question: which speedster set a record for 50 consecutive stealing 50 consecutive bases without being caught?
I'm going to say it was Lou Brock.
I'm going Maury Wills.
Both excellent answers, and you'd both be wrong.
Ooh.
Vince Coleman.
Vince Coleman.
Of
course.
Yeah,
the only player who was actually knocked out of a playoff when a tarp rolled over his leg.
That's a little embarrassing.
Yeah.
Didn't he play college football? Why do you like
I don't know about that. That's a good question.
Okay, so here's our thoughts for the day. Ready for this?
Yeah.
The longest hole in the world is the 7th hole, par 7.
Who are you calling a hole?
Yeah.
Oh.
7th hole, par 7 of the Sano course in the Satsuki golf course in Japan. It measures 909 yards. If you figure that out, that's more than half a mile.
And it's a par 7.
Par 7?
Yeah, isn't that amazing?
Wow.
And a face-off in hockey was originally called a puck-off. And no wonder they changed it. Imagine saying,
puck off, buddy.
Puck off, buddy.
All
right.
I like that.
Tune in next week to Sports Econ 101.
Puck off, buddy.
We're going to be discussing sports topics from a business perspective and giving away more free vacations for answering sports trivia questions. Thanks for listening. On behalf of our team, I'm your host, Edward Brown. We'll see you next week.
Good night, America.
So long.
Oh, the wonderful sounds of the city.
All right.